圆桌论坛主持人 Raymond。
All right, thank you very much to Doreen and thank you to Paul, our previous keynote speaker, for his wonderful input in this session. And I would like to invite our panel speakers to join us on the stage right now. Ladies and gentlemen, and all of you who are watching online, now I'm going to invite our panel speakers to join us on the stage. Yes? 来，你在最旁边。Please join us on the stage. And we're going to have 1 hour roundtable, and our moderator will be moderating in this session from the UK. So later I'm going to introduce our panel speakers and also our moderator one by one. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Raymond, and to all of you who are watching online, thank you so much for joining us. And next is the session we've all been waiting for. 6 experts. And they are going to share with us their insights on IoV. And joining me on the stage right now, we have Gabriel Chou from Macronix. Please give him a big round of applause. We also have Eric Yu from the DEKRA. David Ye from Silicon Labs. Cathy Ye from Microsoft. Chou from Hotai. And ladies and gentlemen, our moderator, it's a pity that he couldn't join us here on site due to the pandemic, but he's joining us actually virtually from the UK. Can you show our, yes, we can see him right now on the big screen. Nitin Dahad, he is an engineer. He's also a journalist, an entrepreneur, an advisor, and also a mentor. He's someone who's been in the business of technology for more than 30 years. And he's right now the correspondent of EE Times and also editor-in-chief of embedded.com. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's welcome our moderator, Nitin Dahad. Let's welcome him. And Nitin, say hi to everybody and over to you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining this panel. I'm really pleased and honored to be here. So I'd like to start off by welcoming you to this 2021 Internet of Vehicles IoV Roundtable. As Raymond said, I'm Nitin Dahad, a correspondent on EE Times and also editor-in-chief of embedded.com. So I'm excited about this panel because we're going to discuss the Internet of Vehicles for smart and safe driving with our panelists representing various key companies in this sector. And Raymond already introduced them to you. But again, I'd like to say from Macronix, from DEKRA, from Silicon Labs, from Microsoft, and from Hotai Connected. I will ask them, each of them, to introduce themselves shortly. But before I do that, let's set the scene. And I'm going to ask the panelists also later to talk about what this all means. But Internet of Vehicles technology is rapidly evolving. And it includes technologies which include enabling vehicle-to-everything communications, or V2X. On top of that, there's also the integration with other non-automotive vertical applications and services. And we're going to be talking about those as well. Things which are going to be realized through various systems and solutions. In this 2021 IoV Roundtable, we have brought together industry leaders and technology innovators from across the wireless, automotive, and technology sectors to discuss market opportunities, technologies, and challenges for future and smart and safe driving. So let's start with some introductions. Please, could I ask each of you to say who you are, what you're responsible for, and highlight your company's role in and position in the IoV ecosystem. So let's start from the, which way should we start? Let's start with Gabriel Chou.
Okay, thank you, Nitin, and everybody here, and welcome. And my name is Gabriel Chou, representing Macronix. We're a memory company, and my responsibility in the company is engaged with automotive global operations and also product development. So today, I'm very honored to represent the company and also share with you our view on the trend and also the solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. Next, I'm going to move to Eric Yu.
Hello, everybody. This is Eric Yu from DEKRA. Let me briefly introduce DEKRA to ladies and gentlemen here. DEKRA had been active in automobile business for more than 20 years, and we have 45,000 employees globally. Regarding to automobile and the V2X and autonomous activities, actually we have 4 test tracks globally. One is in Cathy, and the other one is in Lausan Cui, and also Malaga and Suzhou in mainland China. So we are aggressively joining 5GAA, OMI and IMG 2020. Hopefully that we can contribute our experience to the V2X and autonomous industry in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eric. And now let's go to David Ye.
Sure. Hi, my name is David Ye. I'm representing Silicon Laboratories. I'm responsible for business development here in APAC, and very specifically for their so-called timing products. Previously in my talk today, I referenced to timing for IC as the heartbeat of a human. Okay, so I think essentially bottom line is, we are essentially a mixed signal company, and we have product lines in IoT as well as for infrastructure. And we're headquartered in Austin, Texas. And some people say Austin is in the middle of nowhere, but hey, a couple of months ago, we are in the middle of everything. We got snowstorms and company got shut down for 2 weeks. And here we are live here in Taiwan and still servicing customers. Very happy to be here, and hopefully I can share what I know about automotive market, as well as give you some insight into what our company is doing in this area as well. Thank you.
Yes, Austin's definitely been in the news lately. Now we'll go across the stage to Cathy Ye.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to you. And my name is Cathy Ye. I'm representing Microsoft to join the panel discussion later. So a little bit introduce my company. I think should be all of you understand about Microsoft is a software company. But since we has been in the market for, 40-something years, so Microsoft has already transformed from just Windows and Office software company into, we call that a cloud and edge platform company. So for myself, I actually, for now, I'm working for the Azure IoT as an engineering lead based in Taiwan here. But back to 4 years and 5 years ago, I started to establish the IoT Innovation Center here in Taiwan. So the goal here is I want to incubate and also develop the ecosystem in this region, in Asia, and essentially for industrial IoT. And so based on the few years I have been observed a very interesting scenario, the crossover between the high-tech technology, high-tech segment, and go to the automotive segment. So, for example, I think most of you are aware, like Foxconn has get into the EV car segment. So that's also actually the area I'm working for, to working with a high-tech company and automotive company, help them to do the digital transformation by using digital technology. So I'm very happy to be here to share what we learn and also learn from here. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Cathy. And last but not least, Chiu, and tell us what you're up to.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kai of Hotai. Hotai is an exclusive distributor of Toyota, Lexus, and Hino in Taiwan market. We start our business with we sell cars in Taiwan market for I think 7 decades already. By recent year, we also noticed the IoV technology. So, and also we expand our business from only the car sales or car ownership experience service industry to mobility service. Like we start our first mobility business, Iran, in 2014.
And last year, we launched our new service, Yoshi. Now, I think Hotai, we noticed that there is more IoV technology is booming, and we are considering how this new technology enable us to do something new or something new service or new business in Taiwan or global market.
Thank you very much. So before we launch into some questions, and then we will go to, hopefully we'll have time for Q&A from the audience as well. But let's just set the scene a little and have an overall look at what actually is the purpose of IoV and what are the real solid applications. Maybe can start with Kai, because obviously you're at that end of the user chain. So Kai, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, I think Hotai we are kind of the user of these new IoV technologies. For us, we are always considering how can we do some new service to our consumers. Like today, we developed, we noticed that the IoV technology, so we can enable us to do Iron and Yoshi. But also we found, as our point of view, we use this IoV technology, we collect a lot of data. And we also do something new to our consumers, but we also consider maybe we don't have enough insight or enough imagination of these IoT technologies. So our kind of, my personal responsibility also to find the suitable partners to co-work with us to do something more meaningful. We think IoV is, all technology is to use, but we need to deliver service, or we need to deliver something meaningful to consumers.
Okay. Cathy, do you want to elaborate a little bit on some of that?
I think I should say something very technical, because I come from the engineering group. But after I done like 4 years, 5 years IoT, I feel finding the motivation is the most important thing. So I really like, you brought up the first question, why we needed IoV, right? So I want to take in from from user perspective. I'm a driver, but in some of time I'm also a passenger, right? So from user or driver perspective, the reason why I need the IoT as a technology or a service is for several reasons. As a user, I want to be sitting in a more comfortable and convenient car, and to keep me driving around and on the road in a more safe and convenient way. So basically, I'm looking for a more convenient way to really drive on the road. But of course, sometimes I need to drive on the highway, right? Maybe to visit a customer in Chou. Sometimes you got the traffic jam. So I always think about if I can activate the autonomous driving mode, then I can do my presentation work. I don't need to drive on my own. So basically, I would say the reason why we need IoV is number one, I need more convenient. Number two, I want to save my time on the road. Number three, I want to have more safe condition. And of course, I will enjoy all the infotainment system or the service around the world. I want to listen to the music. I want to be, all the user experience can be connected or consistent. So the paper or the mail I'm writing in my notebook or in my phone, I want to see there's a consistent message happen in my car. So from user perspective, I see that's the reason why I want to really develop and also encourage the IoV as a technology. But of course, we can elaborate more about what's the challenge and technology we were seeing maybe in the next few questions. Okay, thanks.
Okay, yes, and we'll be exploring that in a little while. So maybe David, or do you have anything you want to put in terms of the setting the scene? What in terms of applications and IoV?
Sure. Nitin, I'll probably just follow up with what Cathy just mentioned. Cathy, next time when you are driving on highway, let me know. I'm not going to drive behind you. Okay. So I guess my point is, today, we're not ready yet. Okay. So Cathy, leave your hands on your wheels. Okay. I know. Yeah. So here's the point I want to make. The real point. Okay. The ADAS, okay, is essentially the automated driving assistant system. Okay. We are not there yet. So don't like the guy who was driving on 1 south and just hitting to the truck without even applying a brake. Okay, it's not ready yet. Okay, so I think essentially I'm also trying to tie to what Silicon Lab is doing. Okay, so for ADAS, this kind of system. There needs to be a lot of horsepower, doing computing. Okay, so those very, very big ICs actually needs still a lot of software developments, needs a lot of data. For example, like Hotai, we were just talking about, in order to essentially enable this, we need data. Okay, we need data to let those SoCs understand, to build essentially a neural network. Okay, in order to respond to situations. Okay, so, and then Silicon Lab, we build those timing devices that is connecting to those SoCs. Okay, so that's what we are doing. We like to make those SoC devices, running as reliable as possible and as stable as possible. So that's what we have been focusing on.
Okay, thank you. And Eric, you, I'm going to go around the panel and then we'll go into the next one. So Eric, next.
Yeah. Okay. I only have several very simple comment about that. Regarding to the trend, I believe that when it comes to IoV or V2X technology, people are looking for the completely autonomous driving in the future. Second one, everybody will expect for the safety drive. And that will lead to another industrial revolution. And of course, the outcome is more business opportunity. So this is a very simple comment from myself. Yeah.
And Gabriel, Chou?
Yes, I want to also follow up on Cathy and David's comments. So I will back up with Cathy. I will be the person that's more likely to be sitting in the back row and enjoying reading and maybe doing a presentation. But I don't know. I'm also with David because as SoC, you definitely need memory as a backup. So I think this is humanity, and the entire industry is empowering humanity. We want convenience, we want safety, we want to be connected, right? So I think what technology can enable is that when the SoC and memory and all the ecosystem, system company, everybody work together, we can make these things happen. So what Macronix enabled this entire ecosystem is that we provide very powerful memory solutions, providing security, providing, for example, AI computing, and so forth. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so that's really on positioning. Now let's look at some of what you've seen as the emerging trends over the last 12 months that point to what we might see maybe over the next 12 to 24 months in IoV, connected vehicles, standards, wireless services, and we already talked about possible use cases. But can you just pinpoint maybe some of the key trends that you've seen over the last 12 months? Let's start with Eric. Eric, you.
Yes, from my perspective, actually, in beginning, there are two major groups to dominate the so-called V2X technology. One is DSRC, the other one is 3GPP CV2X. But I'm not sure if anybody noticed that actually FCC terminate the DSRC transmission service span in 2020 September days. That means the bottom layer transmission technology that DSRC used to adopt, which called IEEE 802.11p was terminated. So I have to say that in the future, maybe the major transmission technology for IoV will focus on CV2X. However, we cannot say that the DRC or DSRC already died, because for the upper layer, like the application, like the network and the scenario, they still focus on the the development based on DSRC. So we know that there are two similar but not exactly the same system. So there's supposed to be one technology to harmonize these two systems together. So SAE also released one technology called J3161, trying to harmonize the CV2X together with DSRC. So this is a trend I have noticed from our perspective. The other thing I have to say, it is uncertainty, because we noticed that some of the government announced that they are trying to limit the engine car from operating start from 2030s. We are not sure if this policy is going to to proceed, or there are some changes in the future. But I would say that that's supposed to be another motivate to encourage people to turn to EV car or IoV technology, something like that. So this is a trend that we noticed for the last year.
Okay, let's start from the hardware as well. I mean, Gabriel, what have you seen as the sort of key trends over the last 12 months?
Okay, I think everybody here, we are very aware of the autonomous driving trend. So what's driving this trend is actually, like David just mentioned, the ADAS system and also many sensor solutions. I think for the past 12 months, from Macronix point of view, we see that this trend of AI computing plus the memory-centric solution driving this very important development from autonomous driving point of view. So from SoC point of view, as we understand that the loading will be getting heavier and heavier. So in the future, we can see that this SoC is very busy, or this graphic computing center is very busy, for example, doing the calculation for the frame or the pictures is receiving and doing analysis. And what we see on the trend is that the memory can offload a lot of these burdens from SoCs. So for example, one keyword is called the MAC, multiply and adder. So this AI computing can be offloaded and into the memory, and memory can compute for the SoC. And for this reason, this entire ecosystem can be enhanced and increasing the efficiency and power of this AI computing for the autonomous driving.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of that trend towards compute and memory, as you say. Let's go to David Ye on trends.
Sure. I guess, Nitin, I'll probably answer your question in this way, and please don't think that I'm actually doing an advertisement for Taiwan. It's probably more of an FYI for you. Okay, so there are three areas that Taiwan government actually form a national team. Folks here probably knows what I'm talking about. One is mask. Okay, we actually have before the pandemic, we actually formed essentially a national team to build, the mask that people are wearing. And number two is 5G. So this is the bread and butter I want to tell everybody about. I'm very proud to be here in Taiwan. So in Taiwan, a lot of the ODM guys here are building essentially small cells and base stations. And this is in support of ORAN. Okay, so I think essentially in a nutshell, number two is 5G, and then number three is the so-called MIH. Of course, this is in the back. There's essentially a supporter from Foxconn, from Hotai. But I think this trend is telling us is for automotive market, we are following the development of PC as well as 5G, and we are trying to get to a point where we can manufacture by ODM so that we can essentially broadly service the people on Earth, okay, with essentially the next generation technology that we're putting in auto market today. So I think, in a nutshell, I think, I want to point out there's 3 trends that's actually tying to Taiwan.
So what you're actually implying is Taiwan is sort of heading towards being the powerhouse, not just in semiconductor silicon, but also
that's not a good thing to say these days. I found, because on the backside is because I'm in IC industry, right? So we're facing a lot of shortages. so we spend a lot of time dealing with customers on the shortage. So
all right. Well, let's get Cathy on trends over the last 12 months.
Yeah. So maybe I start from, it's kind of cliche case, right? But everyone, when we start to get into the Internet of Vehicle, people are always talking about CAS, right? Connected vehicle, and autonomous driving and shared service, and also electrification, right? So I would say in the next, 12 months or maybe 2 years from now, I do believe we will continue to follow that trend. But the thing is, I would say when we're talking about case, it need to be more precisely. It need to be more really get down to the market. So when we're talking about like a connected vehicle, before 5G really land the market, maybe people are enjoy about the connected service and to enjoy the infotainment system. But let's think about if 5G get more like landed in the real market, and probably we can really connect inside the car, but also outside the car, and to extend that into the smart city. So that could be the one of the key area we can see there's a big improvement in terms of like a connected vehicle. And the second would be like autonomous driving, right? So I know David don't want to drive with me or drive along me because I'm looks like a very dangerous driver. But what I'm trying to point out is actually I think the autonomous driving can help me to be a more, I would say, safe driver instead of just let it go. Okay, so I would say getting into the autonomous driving, people are more clear about, so what's the level 2, what's the level 2 plus, what's the level 3. So people can get more idea about, so what would be the right behavior, what would be the right technology you need to apply for the different level of the autonomous driving. And the third one would be like shared services. So I'm sitting beside Hotai, right? So Hotai is a pioneer to really drive the shared service. So we do see there is a more shared service will hit the market. And that's essentially because we are driving for Internet of Vehicle. And that's allow us to can really share all the service and make that more personalized. I think that's a very important thing. We share the car, but in the same time, we also enjoy the car can really recognize I'm Cathy and maybe Davey, we have the different driving behavior, right? So they can adjust the seat level, they can adjust the way you drive the car. So that's also empowered by the Internet of Vehicle technology. And last one, I think everyone will agree, the EV car is the next gen, right? So I guess probably you will come over in 2 days later to join the EV car platform. So that's also some things, that's why we want to also invest or join the MIH as a platform, because we do see there's a good opportunity, great opportunity for Taiwan ecosystem to really cross over from the high-tech technology, go to the automotive area. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I can also sense behind that a nice debate emerging between Cathy and David here. So let's see how this goes. Kai, on trends over the last 12 months.
Okay, I think I have to say, I think IoV is not only for autonomous driving. I think between today to the consumer grade autonomous driving, I think still a couple years, I think. But I I think we can do something with IoV technology today and next year and 2 years later. I can give maybe 2 examples what we are doing now. One is the Hotai. We already sell over I think 100,000 connected car in Taiwan market, and this IoV technology help us to understand more how our consumer, how this Toyota and Lexus owner, how they use their car. And this IoV technology help us to deliver better service to these owners. This is one example. And second example is we utilized IoV technology to do our iron and Yoshi. For example, for Yoshi, we have an IoV equipment in every Yoshi taxi. They help us to do better service to taxi Yoshi drivers, and also help us to create better riding experience for the Yoshi riders. So this is what we can do. We are already doing we utilize the IoV technology today. And we think this is from our point of view. But I think in Taiwan, we have many very strong and creative ICT companies, and we consider all these companies could be our partners to maybe we can co-work or co-create something interesting or some creative service to our consumers. I think that will be the next couple years trend, we think.
Okay, I mean, you do have a very good perspective on what's actually happening and what user experience I think people are getting from some of these technologies. Okay. Let's follow on from this. So next question is around, you look at those trends, and then how do you think some of those things are being addressed in the Internet of Vehicles era? For example, and as I said, responding to the needs of customers using different standards globally. Standards is, I suppose, a big issue, and I know as it's been mentioned already in terms of the connectivity technologies. Maybe David, do you want to have a start on that?
Sure. Today in my talk section earlier this morning, I give out essentially one presentation slide. I still remember vividly, and it's about in the old days we have point-to-point cables connecting our car carpets, and I point out that cabling used to be number 3 top cost of a car. Okay, cabling. And back in 2010, yeah. So we start driving essentially a standard called automotive Ethernet. Okay, so essentially at the point we try to make essentially those cablings become essentially a network within a car. Okay, so Silicon Laboratory and even till today we essentially are supporter and also we continue to contribute into that Ethernet standard, and we have essentially timing devices that go into those switch boxes, those Ethernet switch boxes, and obviously as in order to be qualified to be used inside our car, there is essentially a very specific qualification that needs to be obtained. And we follow through on that, and we have essentially today I mentioned we have essentially a family of timing devices that can support essentially automotive Ethernet. And then another standard I will probably just make sure everybody is aware about is there's essentially a technology called IEEE 1588. So this is a technology that, again, it was used back in the Ethernet days. Essentially, the idea was to use Ethernet traffic packets to send timing information to get synchronized. Okay, essentially try to alleviate a situation where you have a car and you drive all the way in the tunnel, and whoops, all of a sudden you lose your global GPS timing. Okay. So 1588, we are contributing, and we're also pushing to make sure that gets adopted within a car as well. And I think where I'm going with that is, and by the way, we actually have very sophisticated algorithm to make 1588 to be very, very accurate, down into nanosecond accuracy. And we are actually applying that technology, that product currently for 5G small cells, as well as the 5G O-RAN base station, as well as our use. And I'm pushing, and I'm suspecting this will get adopted within the IoV as well. Okay, so very specifically, I'll just mention about this two standards.
Okay, Eric.
Yes, when we talk about the implementation of V2X, actually we have to think another way, how to make it more practical. Because once we talk to the autonomous driving or V2X, people would like to use this technology, but still have not so confidence about this technology. I have to say that. So my experience that we have to go through a lot of evaluation process that we can reach this goal. For instance, we can do the testing or verification from the bottom layer to the up layer, from the closed track to open road testing, and to collect enough information from the massed practice testing on the open road. And the other thing is that I have to say that government's supposed to issue their policy, which standard they are going to follow up. For instance, I have to say that the scenario developed by United States government is not exactly suitable for Taiwan, because there's a lot of motorcycle running in the traffic. So we have to create our own scenario and make it as a standard. So localization is supposed to be another challenge for every government. So this is another dressing for DEKRA, that we have a capability to create complex scenario. We can do performance tests, and we contribute a lot of experience to the global organization, such as OMIA, 5GAA, and IMT 2020, trying to help the interested faster move forward. So this is the challenge and the opportunity that I can see in the future.
Gabriel, do you have something to comment?
Yes, from a hardware component point of view, or from IoV overall use cases point of view, I think we cannot go without safety. So what we're engaging ever since 2018 was a standard called ISO 26262, the functional safety standard. And our progress so far, we will get certification, for example, from ASIL B compliant or ASIL D ready in this year for multiple products. I think this is also very important, for example, in Taiwan, many system companies. So we need to look at this standard, because overall, for example, if we want to have IoV as a safety solution, we probably need to go through that, because all the car makers, tier ones, and even the ecosystem is looking at how safe. And they're looking at mathematics ways to calculate these standards. Okay, so I think safety will be one of the critical that we should be looking at.
Of course, safety. And I think, Kai, what do you see from your point of view? Because obviously there must be something you see in terms of what's required in standards, or how are they being addressed? Kai.
I think in Taiwan, I think when we use the data and we do the IoV, of course we need to face a lot of privacy and data security regulations. And it's also kind of a challenge for us to when we want to share this data with any coworkers. So also, when we build a new service, security also our key issue. So like most of our mobility service, we choose a very high standard partner like Microsoft as our data security partners.
Okay.
Because always when we want to enable user to very use our service very convenient, there's always some security issue.
Okay.
And Nitin, I feel this panel is too quiet, so I'm jumping in. Okay. Hey, so
I'm sure I Cathy to respond after you then.
Yeah. Okay. Well, since we're talking about standard, there's one more standard I want to point out, and it's actually right in your neighborhood. I think Nitin, you are in Paris, right? Or are you in England right now?
I'm in England.
You're in England. Okay. So the standard I was thinking about, it's FRMCS, Future Rail Mobility Connection Network System. Okay, so this is essentially sort of a 5G umbrella. So IoV is one of them. Okay, of course, V we talk about is vehicle. And then FRMCS, this is for rail. Okay.
Okay.
But within FRMCS, you can find a lot of things very similar that we are talking about today in vehicle. Okay, how to get autonomous operation in rail networks. How do we get very fast detection of objects on the rail? Okay, so I think this is also where this technology is leading us. Okay, it's going to serve everybody on a day-to-day basis, but it's also going to get into a mission-critical operation. And I think that this is on the news, and I just want to point out, very tragically in Taiwan, we have essentially a railway instance that happened just a couple of weeks ago. Okay, about 49 people lost their life because of essentially a truck rolling down the hill. Okay.
Oh,
and I think this is essentially one example, and I'm just making connection all with 5G and all this technology, really these days. And we could have actually, saved those lives, okay? So I think we need to do better throughout the industry, throughout this panel, try to make, our life better and try to make those, mission critical operations to be a lot safer.
Okay, I think that's a very good argument for sort of applying technologies like this to enable that safety and to be implemented, I guess. Yeah. Cathy, did you want to say anything on standards before we move on to the next question?
Yeah. So I think it's worthy to add on David's and also Kai's comment regarding security, right? So if you look at the standard overall, I mean, in terms of like in the area of the Internet of Vehicle, I would say tons, maybe hundreds of standard, right? But I would rather to using more, I would say holistic view to really look at the security. So back to if I'm a user, if I'm a driver, so what I care about the security. And of course, I really care about the driving security. I really care about the road safety, right? So, and that's the first things. But the second thing is I don't want to be seen, or I don't want to share all my behavior or my personal information to someone I don't really know, or to be modelized. So it's a very, I would say, very selfish thinking, but I would say less humility, because I don't really want to be reveal all my privacy. All right, so I guess that's echo what Kai just mentioned about. So it's always very challenging for the service provider really look at how to modelize all the data. Because data, the big data is what you collect as an asset. But in a matter of fact, most of consumers, they don't want to share because they consider that's their privacy, right? So if we look at the security, I think we need to take it from different perspective. The first folder or the first pillar you need to look at is really about the system security. We don't want to be hacked by any hacker, or I don't want my information, my data to be steal by anyone else, right? So the data security, the system security is something that we really look at. So just back to what we just mentioned earlier, there is a lot of standard, there is a lot of certification process to ensure the system that you build is really compliant with all the security standard. So system security, that's one thing we need to start from. And of course, if you want to build a car, there's a ECU, there's a control unit, there's all different components, right? And there's also a lot of software. So currently people are talking about like software-defined vehicle. So that means you have tons of sensors, you have tons of IC. So that means you can collect all kinds of data. And of course, your behavior, your driving behavior, what the song you listen to, what you did, what you done on the car is all be collected, right? So how can you ensure all the data happened, collected from the vehicle can be applied to the right matter instead of being a steal to be sold as an asset? So the data security, that's the second pillar you need to look at. But the third one, I would say, you also need to think about, when we're thinking about data security, we also need to think about the data governance, right? So thinking about a car, you are the driver, you are the user, so you feel you own the personal data. But the people who build the car, they own the telemetry data. They want to use the telemetry data to really do the maintenance. They want to extend the warranty. They want to get to know about when will be the right timing to call you back to the maintenance house to do the maintenance. But in the same time, the service provider like Hotai, they also want to modelize the data because they want to understand your behavior. They want to know what's the service you will prefer to, right? So having a data governance to having a clear understanding or the platform to supporting to enforce the data governance, that's also something we really need to think through or to really pay attention to. So that's, I think that's probably, getting into another question or topic about, so the data privacy, but how can we really take the technology we are having for now to really support all those challenges we are having in the IoV segment? Thanks.
It is definitely a topic for another debate, because I mean, you could always then bring in the arguments around how Google and Facebook, for example, are using your data, and then also things like GDPR that we have in Europe here. But I think let's leave that for another time. I'm going to move on to the topic here, which is we talked a bit about smart cities, and what I wanted to understand was what are the challenges that we need to address still to enable IoV technologies to support intelligent transportation systems and road traffic safety initiatives? I guess that's a crux of what IoV is enabling us to do. Maybe we'll start with you, Cathy.
Okay. So maybe to follow up our early discussion regarding the automotive security, I would say for now, maybe there's there's free area we probably can look at. All the technology can help us to accelerate the development of the Internet of Vehicle. So the first thing is digital twin, because you mentioned about like a smart city. You mentioned about there is more and more new service will be hitting in the market, right? So how can we really represent the physical identity, physical component into the virtual component? That's that's the technology area. Currently, a lot of technology provider like Microsoft we are working on. So in terms of like digital twin, I would say the most difficult way is how to build the data model, right? You have the different component inside the car. You have the tons of IC, the memory, and all the service. So you got software, you got hardware, you got the you got a very, very complicated hierarchy to really build the component, to build a car, right? So how can you better represent the identity you need to manage it in car, in physical world, but also in the virtual world? So I would say the digital twin, that's the area for the most of technology provider we are working on. And then secondly would be, okay, so if we want to utilize, we want to build a software-defined vehicle, so how can we better to manage the resource in the car? So because every component, every software, it will be consumed a lot of CPU and the memory, right? So how can you build a hypervisor? How can you really abstract all those the hardware and the software resource and to better support all kind of service? So the virtualization and how to really manage all the service, all the resource in car, that could be another key area we're looking at. But don't forget about cloud, because the currently Internet of Vehicle, you don't need to really worry too much. You don't have really adequate resource on the cloud, on the car, because you can really utilize the unlimited power on the cloud. So taking like autonomous driving as an example, you can definitely train the model, but you cannot train the model on the cloud because the CPU power in the car is not good enough. So you definitely can do a tagging, do the modeling, do the training the model on the cloud. Then, of course, when you need to do the autonomous driving, you don't need to necessarily connect to the cloud because that's a mission critical job, right? So you definitely need to counting on the edge to do the decision to really ensure what action you need to take care, right? So the other area we really need to look at is how can you really build the software development life cycle, and that means you also need to having the currently people are talking about how to really better to using the container or microservice to do the DevOps for all the new service. So all those the DevOps technology, that's the area, that's also the technology currently the most of the ISV and also the car maker they are looking at. So in short, I would say the DevOps and also the digital twin, and the third one, back to your earlier conversation regarding the cyber security. Those are the three areas I would say is very critical for us to really make us sustainable in IoV moving forward.
Okay, I'm going to stay on that side of the stage and go to Kai before I move across the other side. In terms of supporting ITS and road traffic safety, where do you see IoV fitting? Kai.
I think in smart city, vehicle is only part of smart city. Is part of the network, and I think there's a lot of things as a car company cannot do is like the roads, the infra, the traffic signs. A lot of things that can be done by a car company or car service provider. So we think there's we need government more active involvement in smart city. And second part is that we also need to reconsider the role of a vehicle. Today, vehicle is only a transportation for human and commodity. But in a smart city, a vehicle can be a sensor, or can be a computing unit, or can be a battery of the smart city. So I think in terms of IoV, I think we can utilize IoV to do a lot of things, but we also need to open our imagination of our vehicle, and also we need governments the more active involvement.
Just staying on that, when we say vehicles, we're not just talking about cars, are we? I mean, it could be air, it could be rail, it could be anything else. And that contributes as well, I guess. Okay. Let's move across the floor. Maybe we'll go to Gabriel. How do you think IoV technologies will support ITS and road traffic safety? I mean, you talked quite a lot about the safety specifications and maybe conforming to those or designing to those. But what else do you think you can see?
Yes, I think if we divide safety and the security, that would be quite different arena. So from safety point of view, I think that's the ultimate goal to achieve from ecosystem point of view. We want to transport, for example, the vehicle from one place to the other. On the bottom of that, based on the foundation of securities. So I think Cathy talked about, we don't want to be hacked, and we want to our chipsets or data transmissions to be secured. So therefore, I think in the future IoV ecosystems, security will be one of the critical item or critical agenda to be discussed. In Macronix, that we engage, not only with this functional safety arena, but also from the component safety or security point of view. So there's a product series called Armor Flash. So we enabled AES-256 bit into the memory chip. So that's probably not imaginable because usually people put the encryptions in the SoCs. But in the future, if we want the solution to be more secured, the communication between the memory and the SoCs need to be secured as well. So for example, and we generated keys utilizing the physical unclonable functions. So that, I think, in the future will be very important to enable overall safety and the security of the systems.
Okay. Eric, do you want to add anything?
Yes. Once we talk about the smart city or the ecosystem, we cannot ignore that the infrastructure. Actually, based on the addressing I made before, that the CV2 is going to take over the DSRC for the base layer transmission. That means we are going to follow the 3GPP application. So follow the 3GPP release 15 and 16. They already addressing that the UU, V2I, V2N, V2P, V2X supposed to be the major application regarding to connected car or V2X application. However, I have to say that to make it happen and become a smart city, it has to be a massive deployment of the RSU that we can make it happen to combine the smart city and IoV together. Again, I have to say that it is a government's responsibility. They have to address the policy they are going to make and what is the schedule of this deployment and what kind of standard we have to follow up. I have to say that DEKRA have all the knowledge to help this industry to move forward. So it is happy that people can come to DEKRA to have a further communication regarding to these issues, because we're shortage of time, I believe.
Okay. Look, last point, if you want to make anything, David, before we move on to the next question.
Yeah, I'll just probably I'll give an example to everybody. I spent 4 years in China before I returned back to Taiwan last year. So over the 4 years in China, I found projects like smart farms, and they have smart everything. Okay. smart farms to actually raise pigs, okay, and so I actually physically go there because during the 4 years when I was there, I was doing AI algorithm developments for essentially a startup. So I actually went there and actually see it. It's just amazing how fast technology got adapted from concept to actually in real ground in China. And then right before I left, and I'm actually echoing what Eric was saying, they have government tenders to essentially refresh all the traffic lights and also all the light pods. So essentially all the traffic lights and light pods actually becomes essentially a RU, a radio unit for 5G. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I guess reference back to Silicon Laboratories, we actually build clock ICs that going to those radio units, and last year we shipped about 1 million units, and those little IC goes into one RU, and so roughly 1 million RU actually got built and I assume shipped in China. So tremendous volume. And of course, like Eric said, I guess we here within Taiwan, and I guess also the rest of the world, we probably need government or some foundational organization really look at infrastructure as one goal to target, and that actually will enable IoV just in general.
Then Nitin will probably have to go faster. We have about 3 minutes left. Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay. All right. Well, should I then, I think what I'd like to do then is get each of the panel's viewpoints on what they see as the biggest promise for IoV and what they're excited about. So let's see. Well, let's stay with David because David's got the mic. Let's go with you, David.
Can you repeat your question one more time? I was on something
so I
else.
understand we're short of time, so I'm sort of moving straight to your sort of final closing comments on what you see as the biggest promise of IoV that you're excited about, both personally and from your company viewpoint.
Sure.
And go from there.
Sure. I think we are, if we are talking about 100-meter race, I think we are probably, just at the very beginning. Okay, so I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and I think from company point of view, Silicon Lab, we actually look at 3 areas that we know that we need to focus on. One, and very especially in this EV or IoV area. One is battery. Okay, how do I get essentially a battery that is good enough and efficient enough to deliver power to actually turn on motors? And so we have isolation products, we have gate drivers that's very specifically targeting battery. Okay, and of course the second area is just electronic in general. Okay, and electronics, we actually break it into 3 different areas. One is what we call networking. So previously I talked about Ethernet within cars. And number 2, I mentioned about ADAS, and Cathy also mentioned about ECUs. And number 3 is just the old infotainments. Okay, gosh, do you guys still remember FMs? I still listen to it, but some friends they don't even turn on the FM anymore. But anyway, so in these 3 areas, Silicon Laboratories, we actually make probably the first FM tuners based on CMOS.
Sorry, I was going to say we do have to move on because
sure. Yeah, so these are the areas that we are focusing on. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to Cathy. What are you excited about in IoV?
Okay, so I want to back to my earlier, when we started to having the conversation, right? So still, back to the user point of view, I feel I'm very optimistic about the development of IoV because I do believe for now we have the technology to support the IoV. In terms of communication, 5G is coming or is already on the road. And AI, I think the fast development of AI do help us to really, really realize all those new service. And the third one, we're talking about like cloud computing because it allows us to really unblock the limitation of the computing, right? So for my personally, I feel very, very promising in this area. However, I think all of us, we do agree there's a challenge, but I would say the most challenging will be 2 things. One is about regulation because people are debating the security, the data privacy. And it won't be solved overnight. It won't be solved just we ask the government to really, having the policy or to set up the law because government, they also need to study, they also need to understand what would be the practical way to really set up the regulation. So I do see there's a strong requirement for all of us. We can cross the domain because it's really need to really cross the different principles. Just like all of us, we sitting together and we discuss all the issue and also the solution we may have together, right? So that's my final, the final remark.
Okay, Kai, let's.
Okay, like I mentioned in the beginning, Hotai, we provide mobility service already in Taiwan, and we already won over 10,000 connected cars for mobility service. We already have some experience to utilize IoV equipment in the real world. So, and we also more than happy.
So what makes you excited? What's the big thing that you think of IoV? What's the biggest promise?
I think we can do more things with IoV, and we are happy to collaborate with different industries, and we believe we can create something beyond automotive and transportation service based on IoV technology. But it requires cross-industry collaboration.
Thank you. And Eric, and then we'll go to the final comment from Gabriel.
Yes, just a very brief comment. Again, completely autonomous driving and safety drive, industrial revolution, and more business opportunity. Finally, DEKRA can help. Please come to us.
Nice one. Gabriel?
Yes, I think in Taiwan, people in the world know us for PC industry, very famous, but never know us automotive or vehicle country. But for IoV, we can consider that 4 wheels on PC or 4 wheels on smartphones. So that's something really exciting for Taiwan. That's in the future we can greatly participate in Macronix. We are ready for all the solutions IoV required. Okay, so we are very excited. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been an excellent panel, and we didn't have time to sort of discuss so many other topics, and I have been having questions coming in from everywhere. So thank you once again to our panel, and thank you to the audience.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands once again for Nitin, for Gabriel, for Eric, for David, for Cathy, and also for Kai. Thank you so much. And would our panel speakers stand to both sides of the big screen because we're going to have a photo together with Nitin on the screen. Yes, please stand closer a little bit to the big screen. Thank you once again to our moderator and also all the panel speakers for sharing so many different possibilities about IoV with us today, and hopefully very soon in the future we'll be living in a world that you can feel safe actually driving next to whoever is near you, whether it's Cathy or David. Yes? Okay, look at our cameraman in front of you. A big smile, everyone. Yes?